Hey there, Jen and Samson and little girl here. This was not planned, as my videos usually are not. If you're new here, this is super casual. Um, and I'm going to kind of jump right into it. I really don't want to give a background. If you want to know what the channel is about, just kind of peruse or browse the playlist if you would like to. So I had shared something earlier today, and I had listened to it because I had watched it before, but I had not caught the end of it. And I heard something at the end of it that was quite the Easter egg. And so I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to go look this up. I'm going to go check this out and see if there's any legitimacy to this. And so give me a minute while I share my screen with you. There we go. And we're going to look at something, and this is exactly how I fell into the topic. You can go check my posts from today. I shared something about the Process Church of the Final Judgment. Now, we're going to go to their Wikipedia briefly just to check in with their, get a summary, get an idea of what this group is about. And then I'm going to show you a couple of very interesting connections. Again, I was listening to the second half of this today. I had never finished it while I was doing dishes or something, and I heard something that was quite the Easter egg, and it shows exactly why we will never see the Epstein list. And so, having said that, let's get into it. Because if, as we've talked about before, if this channel of ours, mine, whatever, I say it's ours, but people don't comment a lot, but it is ours. I think that if this channel of ours does seem to start this butterfly effect thing, people need to know this. It's very important. People are going to lie in the world, apparently. People are going to deceive, but it's very important to try not to be deceived. And it's very important to know where you get your information from, the sources, their motivations, and what drives them. And there's multiple perspectives to each story, but only one truth, facts without perspective, kind of. So let's get into seeing. I just want to briefly check this out and see what this group is about. And then I'm going to show you a very interesting connection. And again, why we will see the Epstein list, which most of us know, but check this out. The Process Church of the Final Judgment. Now, allegedly, let me give you a brief idea here. Charles Manson had connections here. And in fact, I didn't know this, but where he lived with his family, as he called them, was a couple of roads away, from my understanding, from the Process Church of the Final Judgment's headquarters. So I thought that was a pretty interesting tell too. Here's the thing: Hollywood is all witchcraft, and witchcraft is done in movies, and it is technology. Back in the day, you would say it's, this, that, or the other, but a big part of it is hidden technology. And of course, if you don't know anything about that, it's going to seem like some otherworldly process. Although there is a supernatural and spiritual element to all of this, and that's what my channel is about. But more than that, it's about shedding light on the fact that they tell you every day not to believe, that these things aren't true, that there is no such thing as a sky daddy, as they say. Yet they fight pretty hard for the other side as they tell you these things. So just, again, it's very important to know people's motivations, what drives them, why they're doing what they're doing. That's how you figure out if a source is credible. So the Process Church of the Final Judgment is not to be confused with process theology or the process, okay? Was a British, aren't they all, was a British religious group established in 1966. Interesting date there. Disestablished in the 70s, allegedly. Its founders, and remember, rebranding is huge. They changed the names of the organizations. They changed their names. They have aliases because they don't want you to know that quite literally, everyone is in the club except for you and me and a few others. And targeted individuals know this better than anybody because we are the ones, for whatever reason, that they choose to harass. But again, this group encompasses several other groups, and they were all based in Hollywood. And back then, everybody hung out at a place called Laurel Canyon. My interest comes into this because my mother had family in California. I've never met them, allegedly, and she took me there when I was a baby, and then I think she went back there, and she was very occult driven, as I've told you before. So that's where my interest kind of came into this. And then I saw there were all these connections, and let's read a little bit, and you'll see them too, I hope. Its founders were a couple, Mary Ann McLean and Robert de Grimston, who spread the group's practices across parts of the United Kingdom and the US in the 60s and 70s. The Process Church beliefs have been described as a kind of neo-Gnostic theology. They met as members of the Church of Scientology. So this is like an offshoot of that, a splinter group. Named Compulsion Analysis is what they started right after meeting in Scientology. That was established in London. And they lived in a commune in Mayfair in West London before moving to Ixul in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. They later established a base of operations in the U.S. in New Orleans. Prosecutors investigating the Los Angeles murders committed by the Manson family in '69 suggest that there were links between Charles Manson and the Process Church. And despite the connection being unproven, the allegations subsequently damaged the church's reputation. So picture it. Picture Hollywood as an umbrella corporation, and then, or religion, take your pick, I don't care. These people combine all of them together into their lifestyles. So Hollywood would be like the umbrella corporation where everybody kind of meets, right? Their movies aren't just movies, they are rituals. That is why you see certain words connected to certain crimes, but you're wondering, like, why are they telling us this? Like things that were found at the scene, like Marina Abramovic, what she painted in her spirit cooking, the words there, vomit, excrement, things just come up where they shouldn't be coming up. And again, these are what these things point to witchcraft, because all of those things are required in spellcrafting. So they're putting their rituals on these tapes, on master tapes, right? We know they already do it to music, allegedly. But seeing where the world is today, is that really such a stretch, such a hard thing to believe? They take their religion very, very seriously, and they have their money and their bloodlines tied up in all of it. It is all the same beast with a few heads or different tentacles, however you prefer to look at it. So we're not going to get into a whole lot of this right now, okay? We're going to look at a couple other things. I want you to get the idea, though. Basically, they took the Bible and they kind of perverted it a little bit. They said, well, Satan is actually what got Lucifer and Christ together, and Satan is here in the end times to kind of act on Christ's judgment and take certain people out. And then I knew that I had to share this with you, because they also have 22 apostles. Now, these 22 apostles, 21 of them were ended after the son of Sam, Berkowitz, was put into jail, and he said there was more than one person involved. Sammy is drinking his water after his peanut butter. Please hold. Sam. What I found interesting about Berkowitz is that one of their victims that got away, her last name was Valenti. And Aaron Valenti is the one who said we're in the Matrix and kind of allegedly freaked out on a trip to California. We've went over her story several times, and we even took a deep dive into her social media, which we could do again soon, just to see if anything new has been added there or changed. Now, so basically what they thought of, okay, so The group clarified its hierarchical structure while they were in Mexico. The de Grimstons were at the top, who were referred to as the Omega, followed by those they regarded as masters, and then priests, then prophets, and finally messengers. All right. So, what I heard towards the end of this, I'm going to punch up a name. Right there. This guy. So let's look at this overview here. This is from kadef.org. Roy Cohn. Rothstein had an opportunity to have a sit-down with the infamous McCarthy Committee counsel, Roy Cohn. During this sit-down, Cohn admitted to Rothstein that he was part of a rather elaborate sensual blackmail operation that compromised politicians with child, quote-unquote, prostitutes. Okay, that whole phrasing there is really gross. But moving on. I want you to think of something and remember this, because if you saw The Sound of Freedom, that movie taught us this truth and very few people picked up on it. Supply and demand. If your goal is to catch somebody in a intimate situation that looks wicked, but maybe it hasn't gone all the way or whatever, but you want to catch them on film and on camera, you are creating the demand right there to have children in this situation, regardless of the reason. You want to catch this person while you're entrapping them and you're putting some child into this. Do you see what I'm saying? Supply and demand. It's all about supply and demand. So to say that this is what he himself says, that he was part of an operation, right, to catch them in it. Incandescent evil, the story of Roy Cohn from McCarthy to Trump. Roy Cohn has been called the most malevolent force in 20th century American politics, and that was before mentoring a young Donald Trump. Say what? He did what? Mentor? Oh, well, let's check it out. How is he related to the Process Church? Well, we'll check into that in a minute. Let me make sure you guys are still seeing what I'm sharing. The material and you understand the way I'm conveying, the way I'm communicating, I would appreciate a thumbs up, but the channel itself will never be monetized, and most people, we know that now. Roy Cohn, the man who taught Donald Trump everything he knows. This is from 2020. I knew nothing about this, but let's just take a look. And again, every source has a bias. You know, I'm not telling you to accept, receive, or believe that any of this is truth. The point is, this is out there. And if they made such a mockery of these influencers in front of the White House, which is supposed to be a symbol of strength and professionalism in some type of class, or it used to be anyway, before the 2010s. Lay down, bud. He's still licking his mouth from his peanut butter. Yes, you're welcome. You don't have to lick me. Lay down. And the point being is that if we're not seeing this list, he's making himself look awfully guilty. And to have influencers out there in front of the White House, and to have, when he was campaigning, he sat down with Logan Paul. I don't care how hip somebody's trying to be, the real, like, Donald Trump would have never done those things back in the day. I just don't see him doing that. And maybe he would, because it's the next big up and coming thing. Okay, so maybe he would do that. Is that still, what are we supposed to think? Like, I feel like I'm in idiocracy here. Like, everything has turned into WWE. And again, if I'm right about who the Antichrist might be, then that explains a lot. So some historical figures seem to crop up. Now remember, also, these people that we're seeing, they're proxies. They are actors. They're representing somebody out there, but they're actors, okay? So how much of this is true? Well, again, they seem to be representing legitimate situations. And I have an interest in this, not because I was ever a member of the cult that came after the letter P. That's what kind of tipped me off to the fact that, okay, maybe this stuff really does happen. And I have a very personal vested interest in looking into it. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because it is not my story alone to share. So I'm just like the rest of you. I'm seeking information and I'm seeking truth. And I want to know why these acts are perpetrated against children, allegedly having to do with porn, or, that. And what is the other one that I want to say without saying? What is the other thing? Oh, Adrena, mescaline, as Hunter used to call it, the guy that Johnny Depp was in that movie about that guy, that writer. Everybody has seen it at this point. And I think there's another one, a more recent one, story of that guy. I can't never remember his full name. I always want to say the wrestler, and that's not it. So, Roy Cohn has been called the most malevolent force in 20th century American politics, and that was before mentoring a young Donald Trump in mafia-style politics. He was one of those players and strangely present at every step of the way, like a real-life Zelig or Forrest Gump. Roy Cohn's big break came in the 50s, though his legacy spanned well into the 2010s. He made a name for himself, albeit a rather shady one, as a prosecutor in the Rosenberg spy trial of 1951. As chief counsel to Senator Joseph McCarthy, he was instrumental in ramping up the fear and bullying so inherently linked to the Red Scare. The Democrat strategically tied himself closely to the Republican Party, moving forward, showcasing his opportunism. That's interesting. That person from LA that walked into me and my spouse's life said he's an opportunist. Interesting hearing these words. They use the same words over and over. He was, a closeted, you see it there, of the Rainbow Hijacker Club, one who would fall victim to the plague in 1986. Nonetheless, he used his fear-mongering ways and inquisitory methods to purge any suspected gay and lesbian employees from the government. So he hated himself for being that way, and he hid it from everybody. And so then he hated other people that reminded him that that's how he was. Right? You pretend to hate what you are, or you actually do hate what you are, and so you reminds me of people that I know. From McCarthyism to mob ties and the tutelage of Donald Trump, Roy Cohn was an unscrupulous you see the word there, by any objective measure, to understand how he so deftly navigated American politics throughout the decades. An in-depth look is imperative. I want to know his connection with the Process Church, the whole place, because they have connections to snuff films. And I've been telling you recently that they do that that's part of their rituals, is to get that stuff on film. And for whatever reason, when you get that act and blood on film, something it does something, just like they got everybody to do that blood over intent a few years back in the online cult here, and I've talked about that too. It I'm not going to debate whatever or whether or not this stuff is true. It obviously happens, and obviously these people believe that it's true. And so it seems to affect the people, like a placebo, whether it's true or not. So we'll just keep moving on as far as that goes. Let's go back to this tab and let's look a little more into him and see. He did come up when I punched up the Process Church as well. So let's see what happens. Make sure you guys are seeing the screen. Good to go. All right. So Rothstein had a conversation with him. There's his Wikipedia. Roy Cohn on Fellow Travelers. I didn't know he was a character on anything. Interesting. But aren't they always? There it is. Donna Laria and Jody Valenti. Why is he KDEF.org, Son of Sam Murders? Why? See, why are they all? I think they're connected because they were all part of the Process Church. That's the thing. And the Son of Sam, he said himself, he said, I'm not the only one. Son of Sam didn't stand for Son of Sam. Synagogue of Satan. It's more than one person. It's a freaking cabal, like everybody has told us for years. And back in the day, like in my parents' day, not that long ago, these weren't called conspiracies. Like, people actually went to court and the government would come out and you'd see the president apologize for something that happened 20 years ago about poisoning people. Like, this is the government. This is what they do. This is why I don't participate. It's why I won't vote. It's what they do. It's also why I won't fill out an organ donor thing no more. I thought I was doing a good thing. They use that as consent prior to you even being gone. How many stories do we have to hear that somebody wasn't actually and deceased on the table and they tried to take their organs? Like, this is real stuff that happens, and it's happening because we're not believing it when people are telling us. It's our own fault for not believing the truth. They tell us and show us who they are, and we still keep electing them. We still keep putting them, no matter who the face is, no matter who the pansy is that they put on the screen. It's happening because the children are disappearing, women disappear, the most vulnerable are disappearing off the streets. It happens, and it's still happening. And since 2019, 2018, it's happened en masse, and nobody seems to notice or care. So that's why I do this, I guess. So let's look a little more. He's an activist, an author, a lawyer, a political operative. So he's a man that wore many hats. And I hate to say I don't like the look of him, but I don't. I'm not usually like that. Jodi Valenti was actually a victim that got away. So I find it really interesting that we have a story that came out several years ago about Erin Valenti and the apps that she was creating and what she actually wanted to do with them. Videos of Roy Cohn Process Church. Gore Vidal and Roy Cohn and McCarthy. Blase. Bully coward victim, the story of Roy Cohn. Atlanta Jewish Times. No kidding. Wow. When did Roy Cohn meet Donald Trump? Sonia Moskowitz. Oh, let's see. Roy Cohn, images by Getty Images blah. Roy Cohn and Donald Trump attend. Let's click on it and see. Will you show us the image? Oh, it's that article again. We don't want to look at that again. It says Roy Cohn and Donald Trump attended the Trump Tower opening in New York City together in October '83. Did Roy Cohn threaten to wreck the army? John Adams testified at the McCarthy Army hearings that Cohn threatened to wreck the army. Wow. Okay. How is he attached to the church? Westchester, wealthy people in Westchester, Manhattan, Connecticut, and Long Island. What is this? This looks like a podcast, but I just want to see what it says. They cover the interesting history of Donald Trump, Roy Cohn, and the process of the final judgment connections. Yes, but that's what I'm looking for, is the actual connection of it. Because I heard the mention, but it doesn't seem like... Well, he's president now, so I'm sure it's really hard to find as well. Heart of Nineveh. Better known as, very clearly they cover the interesting. Hold, please. Sorry, guys. There we go. Share this one and get rid of that one for right now. Make sure you guys are with me. All right, cool. All right. Alternative news, analysis, and commentary, revealing the true state of the nation. This is July 28th, 2019, right before everything really started getting weird. Government by blackmail. Epstein, Trump's mentor, and the dark secrets of the Reagan era. Appalling for both the villainous abuse of children itself and the chilling implications of government by blackmail. This tangled web of unsavory alliances casts a lurid light on the political history of the U.S. from the Prohibition era right up through the age of Trump, by Whitney Webb. Epstein, the billionaire who now sits in jail, this was before he was ended allegedly, on federal charges for trafficking of minors. He was only able to run this operation for so long precisely because his was only the latest incarnation of a much older, much